Hi guys, Tom Frampton here from Mastering the Mix, and welcome to another mix walkthrough video where I show you what steps I take to get a song sounding its best. Hopefully, you'll learn something new to get your productions sounding better than ever. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to get more videos like this. And don't forget to grab the free trials of our plugins from the link in the description. Okay, so today I'll be stem mastering this song Back Around by a pair of very talented producers, Johan Anders. For this one, I'm going to show you how to take a club track and get it sounding loud, rich and full. Ready for distribution on one of the sought-after labels. So we're going to be shooting for around -6 lufs today during the drop. Low end's looking nice and central there. That's absolutely crucial to getting a loud sounding master. Let's set our frame of reference as well before we even get started by listening to some great sounding reference tracks. These two tracks on the far right of reference are the two that the client has given me. And Be Somebody and the Dead Mouse reference are two of my personal favorites that I really trust. These ones are sounding a little bit over-compressed here. I can hear the crunch in them. They've just been taking a bit too loud with not very transparent processing. But we'll keep them in mind anyway for their tonal balance. So let's start by setting this level and see how close we can get. I'm going to slowly raise up the gain here in Pro L2. Sitting around -8.5 short-term lufs for now. Let's try and push up a bit further. With these settings that I've got here, it's quite transparent. The attack is quite slow. It's a little bit of a look ahead. Let's add a bit of compression here as well at this stage, just to get this loudness really where we want it to be. To get a master sounding this loud at this stage, you really need to have a great tonal balance, so the producers have done a great job here. Just getting the needle dancing there just off the zero. It's pushing crunchy at this point. See, we're up into -5 lufs here. This is super loud. Just gonna pull off the limiter slightly. Let's go with that for now. We can revisit the loudness again towards the end. So to begin with, we're thinking, what are the big differences between the track we're working on and our reference tracks? How do we get from A to B? First thing I'm noticing is that this kick needs to be a lot punchier, a lot more full-bodied. So we're going to replace the kick samples with these hyper bits kicks. These always sound great, and I can jump through them using big kick in the context of the whole mix here. So this is a great starting point to transform the energy of the master. So we're looking for a sample with great source material that we can warp and change so that it fits. The original kick isn't terrible, we're just something a bit more punch in the low end, which is what we've got with this one here. jump back to 31 that we heard earlier. This one for me was sounding the best. It's a bit too clicky for my taste. This kick is definitely more comparable to the reference track than the original one. See if I can push this low end slightly using bass drum. There's some nice clean filters, so it's going to push that low end in a nice transparent way. Now, of course, we're pushing the loudness with the limiter and the compressor, so we'll need to rebalance everything as we go along. Slightly more full-bodied sound there. It's a really punchy sample, so it can sit a bit quieter in the mix. That slightly longer tail as well, it fills up the space in a really nice way. Gonna see how the kick and the bass are now interplaying. We can see when we sidechain the kick, we're getting this red vertical line in Pro Q3. This is showing where the main conflict is. So I'm just gonna use that to help me dial in this ducking on the bass channel. You can also lift out some of these upper harmonics and upper frequencies in the bass. Harmonic distortion here, just adding in those extra frequencies, giving the bass a nice rich tone. Adds those mids and those highs, a bit more character. Just lifts it out. It's like that X Factor secret sauce character that the bass needs just to add that extra energy. When you're coming back around. Muting that lead synth is helping me just focus on these backup synths here and for that lead synth to sound bright and punching through, we might have to knock out some of the high end in these chords and pads. I'm just jumping between channels as they stick out to me. It's almost like the next big thing in the mix to fix. That's where my attention goes. There's no structure, this is music, so you just want to go with the flow, do what feels good. Seeing if I can decongest this lead a little bit whilst I add a bit of clarity in the top end. Just dynamically reducing those harsh frequencies in the upper mids, around 2K to 10K. Adding a bit more body there, dynamically. The changes are subtle at this point, but we're going from a thin sound to a thick sound. We've kind of beefed up the lead here. Knocking out this resonance from the side channels. Jumping back to the reference tracks to make sure we're not straying too far from the path of what is actually a good sounding record. Gonna use animate here to add some punch to the hi-hat, snares, and these other things. We can solo exactly what we're doing here with animate. Change the attack and release just to make sure it's working well. Again, just hear how very subtle changes lift it out of the mix. These hi-hats are a little bit fatiguing on the ears, so I'm just gonna... This is the other kind of dynamic change that I've done there in the high end, is reducing the gain and then allowing it to go back to 0 as it surpasses the threshold. That decongests the mix, but you still get the full peak volume of those hits. So it's decongesting the hi-hats without reducing the punch. First thing that comes to mind here is that these kicks are a little bit loud, so we've changed them into MIDI so we can reduce these right down now. Nice and easy, nice and quick. Kick is sitting nicely in the context of the other channels, which is great. You're calling my phone, I'm being patient, but I'm all alone. When you're coming back around, you've got me all in my feelings, like I could die without you. Getting these lower mids, getting them balanced well in the context of the whole mix is so important, because you take away too much and it will sound thin, you boost too much and it will sound muddy. So here I'm just seeing how the pianos is interplaying with the vocal. You can see the biggest conflict is happening there around 200 to 500 hertz. Just ducking those out of the way when the vocal is singing.
Like I could die without you next to me. It's the way that you look at me. Makes me feel.
Even that ducking of 3 decibels makes a difference.
Calling my phone, I'm being patient, but I'm all alone. Staying faithful, and I'll never know when you're coming back around.
Just gonna use Logic's stock enveloper here just to pull out some transients in these toms and fills, just so they stick out a little bit more. Check some other ones in the stem.
When you're coming back around. When you're coming back around.
That's great. A nice warm and less resonant comparison to the original mix, and it's sounding quite a lot like the reference tracks now.
When you're coming back around.
A few more adjustments to make to get it sounding bang on point. Gonna add a seeing here in reference that the bass is lacking very slightly in comparison to the reference track, so I'm just going to push the low end up using bass drum. Are sounding a bit harsh on this drum tops channel, so we're just going to try and reduce that a bit, take the edge off. Bit of gain reduction and a bit of harshness control. The EQ's already working pretty hard.
Me saying words in my head, filling my mind with these images, yeah. And it's the way that you look at me, makes me feel like I can't breathe. It ain't right, right, right. It ain't right, right, right. It ain't right. Oh no.
One of my favorite approaches to getting a nice pure sound is just dynamically ducking out some of the more prominent frequencies.
You're calling my phone, I'm being patient, but I'm all alone. Staying faithful, and I'll never know.
I'm not seeing many specific resonances sticking out in this vocal.
When you're coming back around.
Still looking very loud here. Very loud. True peak is set plus 0.1 there, so I'll just turn down the output level It's already at 0.3, so I'll put it at minus 0.45. This should give me the headroom I need, so it's not actually going above 0 decibels true peak. That seems to have solved it. That should help us avoid this kind of distorted, clippy sound that we're getting here in this reference track. It's a much cleaner sound that we're getting here, but we're almost at the same loudness. Got to be careful with widening the stereo image because it can end up sounding a bit harsh, but just a flavor like this can add quite a good amount of separation. What I've done there is I've widened the stereo master in the high frequencies and then turned down the hi-hats. Done some adjustments on individual channels, but now let's have a look at the overall stereo master. Just adding a boost there to the high end in the side channels. The tonal balance we can see here is very similar now to the reference track that the client gave me. Just slightly reducing the oomph of the cook there. I prefer the imp in there. Try here is bringing up the volume of the hi-hats, but just taking out the top end here in punch, just so that we don't accentuate those hi-hats too much. We're bringing out the snare, but not those hi-hats. Enveloper there is helping as well, just bring out the initial parts of those transients. a bit more control now to these low mids.
When you're coming back around.
Getting this compression to be very subtle at this point. Just getting triggered by those highest peaks. Returning back to zero before the next kick. This was the client's reference track, so we'll have a very similar low end to what they had asked for. Just very minor changes needed in bass from -6 there, +1 decibel here. Let's see how this adjusts the mix. So we've matched the tonal balance of that reference track. That sounds great. Kick and bass are working really nicely together. They seem sort of glued in there. Just bypassing some of these bands to see which ones are having the best effect. Sounding rich and thick in the low end there now. Nice and beefy. Deciding to push the high end a bit more on the master bus here, taking a slightly different approach. We can see in reference the white level lines here show that our tonal balance is really, really similar to the reference track. And when comparing it to the original mix, this one, the original mix is sounding a bit thin and weak in comparison. So we've made positive progress for sure. See if we can separate these synths a bit more. That's pushing it a bit too wide in those low mids. We'll reduce the output volume here just to make sure when it's not sticking out of the mix too much. It's actually adding some nice separation there from the other elements in the song. Constantly bypassing to make sure that we're making good decisions and listening to the original mix and the reference tracks, always keeping us on the right course. Let's just address the loudness and levels one last time. Let's see how loud we can push it before it starts to distort. Not much louder, really. And about there, 10.7 decibels. So I can hear it's a little bit softer on the punch on those transients, but that is the compromise that we make when we're trying to get a song sounding loud. Just back off it a little bit to let those transients breathe a touch more. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to get more videos like this. And don't forget to grab the free trials of our plugins from the link in the description.